Hello again. We are all ready to the second to the last chapter. It's called The Fourth Day. And we'll read half of it today and half of it tomorrow. And then there'll be one chapter left called Christmas Eve. So remember, they were waiting for Pa to get home. We'd gone into town. It had been beautiful, but then a storm came up. And now this is the fourth day that he hasn't been home. Okay, here we go. In the morning, those sounds were gone from the wind. It was blowing with a steady wailing scream, and the house stood still. But the roaring fire in the stove gave hardly any heat. The cold is worse, Ma said. Don't try to do the housework properly. Wrap up in your shawls and keep Carrie with you close to the stove. Soon after, Ma came back from the stable. The frost on their eastern window glowed faintly yellow. Laura ran to breathe on it and scratch away the ice until she made a peephole. Outdoors, the sun was shining. Ma looked out. Then Mary and Laura took turns looking out at the snow blowing in the waves over the ground. The sky looked like ice. Even the air looked cold above that fast-blowing flood of snow. And the sunshine that came through the peephole was no warmer than a shadow. We don't have winters like that, do we? Where we have 4 days of cold and blizzard. We don't have that. Sidewise from the peephole, Laura glimpsed something dark. A furry big animal was wading deep in the blowing snow. A bear, she thought. It shambled behind the corner of the house and darkened the front window. Ma, she cried. The door opened. The snowy, furry animal came in. Pa's eyes looked out of its face. Woo-hoo! Pa's voice said, "Have you been good girls while I was gone?" Yay. How many of you knew it was Pa? Yeah, I wondered too. Ma ran to him. Laura and Mary and Carrie ran crying and laughing. Ma helped him out of his coat. The fur was full of snow that showered on the floor, and Pa let the coat drop too. "Charles, you're frozen," Ma said. "Just about," said Pa, "and I'm hungry as a wolf. Let me sit down by the fire, Caroline, and feed me." His face was thin and his eyes large. He sat shivering close to the oven and said he was only cold, not frostbitten. Ma quickly warmed some of the bean broth and gave it to him. "That's good," he said. "That warms a fellow." Ma pulled off his boots and he put his feet up to the heat from the oven. "Charles," Ma asked, were you?" She stood smiling with her mouth trembling. "Now, Caroline, don't you ever worry about me," said Pa. "I'm bound to come home to take care of you and the girls." He lifted Carrie to his knee and put an arm around Laura and the other around Mary. "What did you think, Mary?" "I thought you would come," Ma answered. "That's the girl. And you, Laura?" "I didn't think you were with Mr. Fitch telling stories," said Laura. I kept wishing hard." "There you are, Caroline. How could a fellow fail to get home?" Pa asked Ma. "Give me some more of that broth and I'll tell you all about it." They waited while he rested and ate bean broth with bread and drank hot tea. His hair and his beard were wet with snow melting in them. Ma dried them with a towel. He took her hand and drew her down beside him and asked, "Caroline, do you know what this weather means? It means we'll have a bumper crop of wheat next year." "Does it, Charles?" said Ma. "We won't have any grasshoppers next summer. They say in town that grasshoppers come only when the summers are hot and dry and the winters are mild. We're getting so much snow now that we're bound to have fine crops next year." "Oh, that's good, Charles," Ma said quietly. Well, they were talking about all this in the store, but I knew I ought to start home. Just as I was leaving, Fitch showed me the buffalo coat. He got it cheap from a man who went east on the last train running and had to have money to buy his ticket. Fitch said I could have the coat for $10. $10 is a lot of money, but I'm glad you got the coat, Charles, said Ma. Do you remember how she was worried about him leaving because he didn't have a good coat? Well, now he has a good coat. As it turned out, it's lucky I did, though I didn't know it then. But going to town, the wind went right through me. It was cold enough to freeze the nose off a brass monkey, and seemed like my old coat didn't even strain that wind. So when Fitch told me to pay him when I sell my trap furs next spring, I put that buffalo coat on over my old one. As soon as I was out on the prairie, I saw the cloud in the northwest, but it was so small and far away that I thought I could beat it home. Pretty soon I began to run, but I was no more than halfway when the storm struck me. I couldn't see my hand before my face. It would be all right if these blizzard winds didn't come from all directions at once. I don't know how they do it. When a storm comes from the northwest, a man ought to be able to go straight north by keeping the wind on his left cheek. But a fellow can't do anything like that in a blizzard. Still, it seemed I ought to be able to walk straight ahead, even if I couldn't see or tell directions. So I kept on walking straight ahead, I thought, till I knew I was lost. I had come a good 2 miles without getting to the creek, and I had no idea which way to turn. The only thing to do was to keep on going. I had to walk till the storm quit. If I stopped, I'd freeze. So I set myself to outwalk the storm. I walked and walked. I could not see any more than if I had been stone blind. I could hear nothing but the wind. I kept on walking in that white blur. I don't know if you noticed, there seemed to be voices howling and things screaming overhead in a blizzard. Okay. Yes, Pa, I heard them, Laura said. So did I, said Mary, and Ma noted. And balls of fire, said Laura. Balls of fire? Pa asked. That will keep, Laura, said Ma. Go on, Charles. What did you do? I kept on walking, Pa answered. Okay, that's halfway through this chapter, and then we'll finish it tomorrow, and we'll get to see how Pa made it through that terrible blizzard. Yeah, so anyway, at least it's good to know that he's home and he's safe, isn't it? And he's warm by the stove and eating bean broth, and everybody's together again. That's a good thing, isn't it? Alrighty, well, we'll see you tomorrow for the second half of the 4th day. Bye-bye.